This is the Chiquibul Forest, a dense jungle teeming with unparalleled wildlife. The sheer biological diversity is breathtaking. The great expanse of this tropical rainforest accounts for 7.7% of Belize's terrestrial sovereignty. An ecosystem like no other. It stretches across more than 400,000 acres of land. But the forest is under constant threat. Threats originating from the Guatemalan side of the border.
Cattle ranching has been one of the prominent activities that is now occupying some of the lands that originally had been used for agricultural farming.
News 5's videographer Darrel, Moguel and I trekked deep into the Chiquibul to witness firsthand the evidence left behind by encroaching Guatemalans. Our 6-hour journey began at Tapir Camp, where Park Manager Derek Chan provided a brief on the route which would lead us a kilometer away from the borderline within the adjacency zone. That is where most of the illegal activities have been recorded.
This is our border. This is Guatemala. This is Belize. So you could see the green as a forest.
The intimate connections between wildlife are being continuously disturbed. Accompanied by armed BDF soldiers and FCD Rangers and with the support of FCD's Executive Director Rafael Manzanero, News 5 documented the continued presence of Guatemalans in the area. We trekked for hours, cutting our way through the thick forest. With the assistance of a GPS device and the Rangers' knowledge of the area, the trek led us to 6 key points where Guatemalan peasants who live alongside their side of the border have cleared large parcels of land for agriculture and cattle ranching. The devastation is evident. The area looks as though the forest has been plucked from the earth, leaving cattle to roam and graze in the Chiquibul. Man-made pools to keep the cattle hydrated, an erected barbed wire fence to keep the cows from roaming too far, and horses are all found within Belize's Chiquibul Forest. Friends for Conservation and Development, along with the Forest Department, supported by the Belize Defense Force, have been battling illegal cattle ranching for quite some time.
Cattle ranching has been one that we have been studying more recently. Thankfully, the Ministry of National Security Defense has now highlighted that as one of the major, threats and challenges along the western border.
Over the years, FCD has been monitoring the area, collecting evidence of encroachment and illegal activities. This side-by-side satellite time map shows the devastating ecological effect over time. In 1989, the map shows vegetation on both sides. Fast forward 28 years later, a satellite snapshot of the same area shows the absence of vegetation on the Guatemalan side. What was once a biological diverse forest is now barren land. Over on Belize's side, much of the forest remains intact, but along the edges, the forest is disappearing along with its inhabitants.
We basically project that if left then alone, those areas without really doing any patrols or so, those will be the areas that practically will be converted into pasture lands.
Frequently, Guatemalans who have crossed to this side of the border to carry out illegal activities within the Chiquibul have been arrested on charge. The threat, however, persists as more Guatemalans continue the illegal practice. We didn't see any Guatemalans in the area when we trekked by, but what we say is evidence of their presence in the area. Illegal cattle ranching dotted across the Chiquibul is what we saw, and what the FCD has been doing for quite some time since they were formed is to address this in partnership with the Belize Defense Force and the government. But what it takes is more attention, more money, more human resources to be able to not only patrol and monitor these far areas, but actually conduct enforcement. And enforcement is crucial, especially to protect one of Belize's most priceless natural resources. FCD is operating on a $700,000 budget annually, 40% of what is actually needed in order to carry out its mandate. FCD requires an annual budget of $1.5 million. The Chiquibul Forest represents the largest catchment area of rainfall, not only providing over 40% of the population with water, but acting as a critical source of energy production.
We are looking at over 430,000 acres of forest with beautiful things, wonderful things yet even to be discovered. But if anything really is critical, at least that is tangible, that Belizeans can understand, is the water resources. Mountains like this are the main headwaters of the water that reaches way down to Belize City, and we have been saying this for quite some time. Of course, like any other environmental things, you only really start to feel it unless it's really already gone, which by then is already too late. We have documented up to 14 or so environmental goods and services that comes out of this forest, which includes even tourism today.
With the push of the International Court of Justice, we asked Manzanera if an ICJ ruling would assist them in their fight.
We believe that we need the presence. So even though if the line is basically outlined very clearly, the boundary, I think it would help a lot. But still, we would have, because this place is rich. Once you have a nice mango in your tree, there will be kids that will want to stone it down to eat it. That is the reality of, we spoke about the price, the value that this thing has. So we have to protect it.
The cultural and economic value of the Chiquibul has not been determined, but it's safe to say that it's priceless. Our exhausting trek ended at the Caballo Conservation Post, 1.5 kilometers from the borderline. Poised on a hilltop, the CP overlooks this area of the Chiquibul. The journey getting there is a story in and of itself. Hipolito, Novelo, News 5.